Okay, everyone, please rise to the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good evening all. Welcome to the Monday, April 18th, 2022 New Britain Township Board of Supervisors business meeting. At this time, I have a couple of chair comments. First being that the board met in executive session prior to this meeting to discuss personnel, land acquisition, and litigation matters. Also, I did forget to bring it up in our executive session that the board needs to meet for 5 quick minutes after the meeting for executive session to discuss personnel as well. The second chair comment I have is that I am looking for a motion from the board to add action item K to our agenda for this evening.
So moved.
Is there a second? I have a first and a second. Is there any comments or questions?
No.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Okay, next item on the agenda, public comment. Do we have any public comments? Do we have any public comment online?
We do not.
All right. Sensing no more public comment, we will go to public hearing. Matt or
I will turn it over to
Sean.
Township Solicitor.
Thank you. First public hearing I will convene is in regard to ordinance 2022-04-01. That is an ordinance. Make sure I have the right one. That is an ordinance amending the township's International Property Maintenance Code and adopting the 2018 edition of the Property Maintenance Code as the township's Property Maintenance Code. I have as board exhibits. With Mark. Exhibit A will be the affidavit of proof of publication in the Intelligencer. Exhibit B will be proof of filing of the ordinance with the Bucks County Law Library. Like to review these?
I have reviewed them.
Okay.
Yeah, we have them in our packet.
Make sure you have them. Yep. All right. Those will be all for the exhibits. Is there any public comment? All right. Any comment from the board?
I have one comment. When I was reading through the first one, 401, in section N, general definitions,
Mhm.
just the term weeds. I know this is gonna seem silly. But it's how do you, weeds can mean anything that a person doesn't want. How do we say that one person's weed, which could be a native plant that they are trying to cultivate, is somebody else's weed? Because it says 6 inches, and if it's like a grass that you're trying to cultivate, which is a natural grass, could grow to more than 6 inches. So
Are you asking, would you like us to further delineate what weeds or further define what weeds are in the ordinance? The definition as written is it's taken essentially word from the national code. We are certainly free to adopt a more specific definition if the board would like to do that, but I would need to either research it myself or be provided by you with a better definition of what you'd like to see there.
yeah, I was trying to work that one out and I wasn't quite sure how to word it. So
They have, the definition is pretty comprehensive. Think of noxious weeds, and
Mhm.
just then it says
Yeah.
weeds. So I don't know if we would need to amend the ordinance or just create a policy that goes with our ability
Enforcement.
to have naturalized areas, whether or not they're over 6 inches.
I think the best thing is to leave it the way it's written here in the ordinance.
Mhm.
And then on a case-by-case basis, if somebody has a problem with it, that they could then discuss it with the staff and then make the decision as to whether it's
then how do
necessary.
we, as a board, tell our staff to do that on a case-by-case basis? How do we project that thinking?
Well, I think if a resident comes in with a problem with being cited, at that point, it could require the staff member to then bring it up to the manager / supervisors as to what the problem is. Is that reasonable, Matt? Well, I mean, yeah,
That's gonna be a challenge for me and my staff to play the role of Solomon to define.
I didn't say you have to play the role. I said you just have to be notified about the situation. Then we as the board can make the decision whether we feel it's.
We have an ordinance on naturalized areas, do we not?
Right.
I believe we do, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I will withdraw
Sorry, I'm
my
just
concern.
processing things. I'm just
Yep.
how,
I think we need to look at that. Well, I think we can pass this and then look at how
That
the two
subsection.
interplay. And if there
Yeah.
further definition is needed, we could add it at a
try
later
to keep
date.
it simple
Mhm.
and yet still enforceable. And yet I don't want it too loosey-goosey that, we don't have enough to enforce, but I hear you. I see what you're saying. And I do respect that you need to be a little more open to different interpretations.
And that's the thing, as we
Yeah,
say.
I'm kind of confused because it talks about the fact that it doesn't apply to naturalized areas, buffers, managed meadows, no-mow zones, so it kind of covers itself. If a homeowner has a naturalized area,
But if a homeowner is just letting their grass grow because they want to cultivate, it's not a naturalized area. See, that's all.
yeah,
So
but this
yes.
is a property maintenance code that
Yeah.
we use for residences in terms of if we have, say, a resident in a neighborhood that all of a sudden wants to have a no-mow zone, that doesn't necessarily fit in with a residential environment where you have a neighborhood. And so that's
And I
why
would
you
say-
have a stronger code and then you can make allowances after the fact.
And I would say, why not? Why does all residences have to have grass this small? So that's that's what I'm saying. It's like that is the conversation. So I'm
Again,
happy to
I
let it
think
stand.
you have something stronger and then you can always make allowances on a case-by-case basis. That's
Which
why,
is just what
that's
Bill
why you have
said.
speed limits.
Are there any further comments regarding ordinance 2022-04-01?
No.
All right, I think we'll close that hearing. We'll entertain a motion on that ordinance in a few moments.
Very good.
We'll move on to ordinance 2022-04-02. In regard to that ordinance, that is an ordinance amending the Township Fire Code to come into compliance with the 2018 model fire code, updating from the previous version, which I believe was 2015. I'll submit Board Exhibit A, which is the affidavit of publication in the Intelligencer newspaper. And Board Exhibit B is the affidavit of proof of filing of the ordinance and a full copy of the ordinance with the Bucks County Law Library. Would anyone on the board or any board members care to take a look at a copy of the ordinance, or I know you have it in your packets? Any comments from the public? Any comments from the board?
No.
All right, then we will close that hearing as well. If there are no further comments, and we'll take that up on a motion in due course. Wes?
Thank you.
We're all set. All right, very good. All right, at this time we'll be moving on to our action items. Again, as we've said before in meetings, while we are going to be having action items and they're set up as a motion for a approval this evening, if there is any item that there is public comment on, we will take public comment on it. So we will start with action item A. At this time, I'm looking for a motion for the board to approve the minutes of our March 21st, 2022 business meeting and our April 4th, 2022 workshop meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Is there
Second,
I have a first and a second? Are there any comments, questions, or amendments? And seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Next motion on our agenda is I'm looking for a motion for the board to approve the schedule of bills dated March 25th. March 25th for medical reimbursements, April 7th for medical reimbursements, and an amount of $163,316.42. and to authorize the township manager to pay all the bills per the attachment.
So
Motion
moved.
to approve.
All right, we have a first, we have a second. Are there any questions about any of the bills? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. I'm now looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda items dated April 18th, 2022 for the attachment.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of passing the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. All right, at this time I will now be looking for a motion to adopt resolution 2022-09, 1 High Point Drive preliminary final approval for the attachment.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Is there any comments or questions from the board? Is there any public comment? All right, sensing none, all those in favor of passing the resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And I'm recused or abstained, so. Very good. This time I'll now be looking for a motion for the board to adopt resolution 2022-10, the planning module for Lohan per the attachments.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a first and a second. Are there any comments or questions? Would everyone all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Goodness gracious.
Right.
Yeah, I'm fine. That's hung up there for a second. Motion passed. Next on the agenda is a motion to adopt ordinance 2022-04-01, the adoption of the 2018 edition of the IPMC as presented by Sean.
Make a motion to approve ordinance to 22-04-01.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any further comments or questions regarding it? Sensing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Next motion on the agenda, a motion to adopt ordinance 2022-04-02, the adoption of the 2018 IFC as per explained by Sean as well.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in, any comments, or questions again? No, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. All righty, next item on the agenda, the motion to authorize the execution of the PCCD grant and to authorize the chairman, Gregory T. Hood, to sign the award notice for the attachments.
I'll make it.
We have a first and a second. Matt, would you like to give a quick little?
Yep, of course, thank you. So Chief Clouser had secured this grant for some policy writing that he's been going through this year for the department. And this is just an administrative exercise authorizing that the board understands this and authorizing the chair to sign the official grant document from Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency.
All right. Any comments, or questions? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. All right, next motion on the agenda, motion to authorize the purchase of equipment for new police vehicle. Oh, okay,
I'll make that
well, wait, I
motion.
need a motion in a second first.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right,
I have
So,
a,
yep.
go ahead.
This is, if you remember, Chief Clouser 2 weeks ago explained that we need to put the order in for the upfitting right now, so we can get it ready for the vehicle that we are expecting in the next several months. This was a budgeted expense in the 22 budget, and it is below budget.
all right, so comments or questions?
My question was answered.
Gotcha.
The vehicle has not yet been received.
No,
Not yet. So if you remember, Chief Clouser 2 weeks ago said that if we wanted to go with an all-gas vehicle, we could do so. But we still want, he especially wants to continue down the path of making it a priority to try the hybrid vehicle. We're willing to wait, and it's not at a detriment at this point. The department is not without a vehicle. So it'll be a nice to have, not a need to have at this moment.
Do they think they're going to get all this equipment before we actually get the truck?
That's the plan.
And do
That's
we
why
have
we're
enough
asking for
room
this.
to store it all?
Yes, we do. That's the plan, to try to get all of these products, since there are a couple of different sources of it, that we need to get things moving right now to make sure we have all of those pieces by the time. We don't want to be waiting around for the equipment once the vehicle arrives.
All right, are there any further comments or questions? Since seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, motion carried. Next motion on the agenda. I'm looking for a motion for the board to approve passive open space project for township owned open space at Circle Drive and authorize Ken Jones to apply for open space grants conditioned upon reviews by township staff, engineer, and solicitor before implementation for the attachment.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a
Yeah.
second?
I'll second.
Are there any comments or questions? I think we got this one. You wrote a motion, we explained everything, so.
This is a plug.
Yep.
Mr. Jones and his crew will be out in Marshall Circle this weekend,
9 a.m.
deploying the first. If you remember, he came before the board last year and asked for this a similar motion. It'd be great. You could see a couple of you out there, and I'm planning on being there and watching, make an appearance and see what's going on.
This Saturday at 9 a.m.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
And it looks like they may not have as many volunteers as they,
Uh-oh.
so it'll take a little longer, maybe,
Oh,
or
so I don't
take a
need
couple
to-
weekends.
I don't need to wear boots and digging clothes.
Yes,
If you want to.
yes, you do. You do need to wear boots and digging clothes,
All right.
because it's going to be muddy, I think, after this week. It's going to be a bit muddy and sloppy. So,
All right, so I have a first and a second and an explanation. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. And that is the conclusion of, oh, no,
Nope.
sorry, I'm sorry.
go on.
I'm over here. I've got a lot of papers flying through here.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep you straight here.
All right, last but not least, motion K. I'm looking for a motion for the board to approve and authorize staff to complete the purchase of a cat skid steer and 8 of the attachments that were ordered in the total amount of $124,485 per the attachments. For information, this expense is included in the 2022 budget.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any more comments or questions?
Thank you.
All right,
And
all
it
those-
comes in under budget. That'll give you a
Yes.
good thing.
Yes.
Yes.
all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. And that concludes now all the action items on the agenda for this evening. The next item on our agenda is the information items. Township managers report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to start my report this evening by announcing that I was contacted by an organization, Friends of Bay Minette in Alabama, who actually used information on our website. Wait, someone's actually using information on the website? Our current, you're talking about our current website, right? They were using it for, the woman who contacted me was leading a conservation class with some school-aged children, and they just randomly selected for some reason, they queried and got our website to talk about storm water research. So it's nice to know that the information is being used. And they also forwarded me a link to a glossary of terms that we could use on a new updated webpage within our new website. So I thought that was a pretty neat thing. His and Her Bingo this Friday. If you don't have your tickets, I know, I see you put your heads down. If you don't have your tickets, I'm going to guilt you into it. Buy your tickets. 7 p.m. this Friday. Coleman property, the demo. We did get some 4 quotes. Good news is that we got 4 quotes. The bad news is that it exceeds the threshold for the minimum threshold for it, the maximum threshold for it to require it to be bid. So it will need to be publicly bid. And those, without giving too much away, I'll give you a range. It was within $30,000 to $60,000. So it was a big range.
And that's with allowing them to
Reclaim.
reclaim.
Yes, 2 for a fact are, the ones who go in salvage, there we go. Ooh, there's the word. Are salvage firms who go in and actually dismantle things and resell as much as they can, including the fieldstone. All of them said the fieldstone, there's not much of a market for it because it would require hand excavating all of the mortar off of it. It just becomes cost prohibitive. But yes, they do try to find a buyer for that. So the Public Works Superintendent and I are working on putting a process together on how we can put this together. I'm going to work with the Township Engineer and Solicitor to talk about moving this to a bid stage and what that means and those costs. And I think it's going to be a little more complicated than we might think, given that there might be asbestos and those sorts of things there as well. So to be continued. Keller Road Bridge, just keep that in the forefront. I know all the groans commence, I get it. I've asked the police department to get me details regarding those traffic counts and logistic concerns if the road would be closed. I'm expecting that in the next week or two. So hopefully the next meeting cycle, I will have information for the board to consider. Let's see, we've got PSATS conference next week. We'll all be out in Hershey, learning all good things about best practices for township supervisors. Newsletter. Our current newsletter is done in-house, designed in-house, and we printed usually about $10,000 per year to do our newsletter. And those are just printing and shipping costs. That does not account for staff time to design and write all of the material. Why am I talking about the newsletter? Because there are firms, third-party firms, that actually will do it for you for zero cost. That is a different thing. And so I'm asking the board if this is something you would be interested in me exploring, trying to do a newsletter that would be a zero cost solution. The trade-off, of course, is that these firms sell advertising for local firms. It's not national advertising. They'll go to the municipality in which the newsletter is, get those advertisements to pay for itself. I know that has not been the tradition for the township, and I was just wondering if the board would like to continue down that tradition of doing it in-house, or if the board would be interested in exploring the zero cost option with a third party.
I was actually in an event on Wednesday and I was near Newtown Township and they had one and it was one of those kinds of newsletters and I forgot to bring it in today. So
Yep.
I'd be interested in exploring it.
because this
To
actually
see
looked
what it-
like a little booklet because they had a lot of park and rec stuff to go in there as well. Like, so it's not just like
Informational.
informational. There's a lot more involved, a lot more in the newsletter than just what we have now.
It can be as expansive or as small as you want. The more expansive it is, it gives them, the company, more opportunity to sell more advertising. So they like a more robust newsletter.
We still have to write the content for
You
it
do have to submit
internally.
the content, but you have no design and you don't have to design it. You don't have to worry about the printing. The only staff time would be submitting the copy for the newsletter.
I'd want to see how much was advertising versus,
You know, what
Information.
percentage is
News.
advertising versus,
So I've
And
got an
to-
example in my office. If
I
you
have
wanna
one
stop
other
by.
concern, and that would be the restriction on the use of our residents' information, mailing addresses, whether that could be resold, et cetera, et cetera. So if they're going to insist upon that, then I would be very leery of doing something like that.
My understanding is that they maintain their own mailing addresses. Also, they would not be getting anything from the township, but that is something that I could verify.
Because I don't think it's actually addressed to any singular person. It's just
It's
Current
addressed
to my
as
resident.
neighbor.
It's usually
Yeah.
addressed to whoever's it,
Neighbor ads, yes.
or the current resident, usually it says.
Yeah.
and there's no cost whatsoever for the postage associated with it.
Zero.
Certainly wouldn't hurt to look at it.
I've got examples. I just didn't, before I went down that path, I know I'm trying to be respectful of past practices, and I know we've done that in-house, and I didn't know if that's a tradition that you wanted me to continue. If so, I can go down that path, but there are other options as well.
Well, we've had over the last number of years, we've had a company that's come in here and done a map of the township. And they've solicited advertisers for that,
Yes.
and that's handed out as part of our welcome to New Britain Township. So I think this is another means whereby we can get, a good amount of information out to the residents.
I will see if I can get a whole bunch of examples for you, and so you can put your eyes on.
Okay.
May 2nd work session. Staff is recommending to the board that you consider canceling that meeting, given the logistics of the PSATs conference next week, short turnaround time, and the lack of business, urgent business to be considered.
Well, then if we are going to do that, we have to pass it with the, actually do a motion, do we not?
To amend the agenda to cancel the meeting?
We should.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Well, no, I was gonna wait until Board of Supervisors comment. I was
Okay.
gonna wait till we get down there. I thought that'd be the perfect place to throw it
And that
in there.
concludes my report.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, very good. Next item is departmental reports.
They've been submitted and are included in the meeting packet.
Are there any questions or comments on the departmental reports?
No, no.
All right, solicitors report.
You have the written solicitor's report that was submitted at the beginning of the month. That'll be updated as of May the 1st. In addition to that, which was already discussed in executive session today, I would also let the board know that today, both Matt and I believe Craig received a letter from Kelly McGowan, the attorney for Fox Lane and High Point, assenting to and approving all the conditions set forth in the resolution, which was passed tonight. So we've already received that, and that'll be made part of the file.
All right, very good. Are there any comments or questions in regards to the solicitor's report? All right, engineer's report.
At least one addition would be from my report for beginning of the month was Toll Brothers review will be done probably tomorrow. That is the two sketch, I say Toll Brothers, I should say, I don't know the address, behind Wawa.
That's how I refer to it. Behind well.
I know, we need to come up with a name, even if we deny it. Let's get a name on there. There's two sketches, the apartments in the towns. You did see that plan. The letter got complicated because it's part of the the overall project that I don't think three of you weren't involved in. When the Wawa was built, the Creamery Tire actually owns, that owner owns the rest of this property. Janine's draft letter got very complicated, and I feel either we need to have an engineers meeting, staff meeting, and then also come back to see you before we go. So that's kind of good. We have more time to do that. And then maybe we can put them on the second meeting in May, not to go through the whole letter, but to highlight some things of where, what direction you'd like to see them go in. I did get a call. The same team is working in another client, different single family homes, but they want to take their time and get feedback before they engineer it. So they do want your feedback, but they did say they do prefer townhouses, which I hear from every developer and with every client is they prefer towns. I actually like that as well. I asked Janine's opinion. I did not ask Matt or Sean, but I know the board said they like the open space. And Cynthia, you brought that up, but so I did tell them if you could get the same open space feel, maybe with townhomes, that maybe that's more palatable than apartment buildings. I think you need to look at the residents behind there and that impact, how close, the height, everything. That's just my opinion, but hopefully that we can get into that at your meeting in May, and we'll have time to digest that at staff level. So I will need input from you guys on this one. This is not a kind of black and white, just a couple waivers and things like that. There's a lot of planning that needs to go into this. I think you need to give some direction to staff and then planning commission and the applicant.
Appreciate that.
So I have.
Are there any comments or questions for Craig?
What was the other one that had the houses? You said there was another project that the same company brought in?
Yeah, it's they're carving off the unused land of a cemetery down on County Line Road. That one's interesting itself, but it's zoned single family, so they have to stick with single family, but it's the same team. So I do have a report with them, and they were very upfront about how they'd like to work with you. It's not Kelly McGowan, it's gonna be Nate Fox is the land use attorney. He was in here, presented the first time you saw them. So it's good when we all, I think, all have a rapport with who the applicant is and the professionals. It kind of makes it a little easier to get, I think it's about High Point, to be honest with you, we work well with the High Point team, and when they're listening to us, it makes it a lot easier for me to do my job and get you a plan that you like. So it's apartments or towns behind the Wawa. So,
Yep.
And it's honestly, it looks like it's going to be by right. I told them before they came in that unless it's by right, you're not going to consider it. So the density and most of the zoning issues are already resolved.
For what it's worth, I agree with your analysis of the townhomes versus the apartments.
Yeah. I know it's been,
They were talking more of condos that are, they may look like apartments, but I think they were
yeah,
talking about
well,
condos.
it's the look and the feeling, the high cost, the maintenance, and then, you have just property issues, whether you have a maintenance code or not. It's just more issues. So that's all I have.
All right, any other questions, comments?
Not for Greg.
I'll see you at Hershey. Everybody has my cell phone, so.
All right, so Board of Supervisors comments. First item we're going to take care of during the Board of Supervisors comments is I'm going to be looking for a motion to amend the agenda to actually now add motion letter L. A motion to cancel the Monday, May 2nd, 2022 Board of Supervisors business meeting that was scheduled for 10 a.m.
I'll
Make
make
that
that
motion.
motion.
I'll second it.
Okay.
To be clear, this is
This is a motion to amend. Yes.
amending the agenda to add the motion.
Right.
Yes,
Just
correct.
being clear for those who
You
are
know,
following along at home.
I did say that.
You did, you
Yeah,
did.
I thought I did.
You're good.
Okay. Okay, I have a first and a second to amend the agendas. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. All right, so now we're going to go back to the action items, to action item L. I will now take a motion to officially cancel the Monday, May 2nd, 2022 Board of Supervisors work session scheduled for 10 a.m.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments? Sensing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Very good. All right, now, are there any other supervisors' comments this evening?
I do want to, it kind of comes off of that, but we have an ordinance that requires native tree planting, correct?
That I don't.
I'm kind of
Oh,
speaking to Craig,
Your
not
subdivision-
you.
Your subdivision land, it's your test.
Sorry, I was just looking in that general direction.
Subdivision land development ordinance does if it's part of a subdivision land development project. If it isn't, and it's just someone, that doesn't require to go through that process, it just requires a permit, no. Do people usually ask us for some guidance? I think yes, over the years, we'll say, hey, here's that list. Does that need to be updated? Probably. That's where we're at.
I have a concern that I'm going to bring up probably an executive session or something that's occurred that upsets me greatly. And I believe we should have a list where trees are being replaced, or they should be natives, and they should be a list, approved list that we have. I've brought this up several times. One thing I did hit on once or twice is that to have the same tree list, I think Park and Rec came up with 2 or 3 trees. And it seems that everyone's choosing the same tree. I have a great concern about that in terms of diversity. We've seen it with the elms, we've seen it with the ashes, going further back with the chestnut trees. It is not a good idea to plant all of the same trees in an area, because if you get a disease, you're looking at massive swaths of trees that are dead. They have to be cut down. That costs money. It just makes sense not to have that. And when someone is required to replace an area that they have intentionally disturbed, they shouldn't be allowed to create their own arboretum. And things should come before the Board of Supervisors to be discussed before they're okayed. That's all.
Not exactly quite sure if that's an executive session item we're allowed to talk about.
Okay, I can bring it to security.
I need
Well, if
Sean's
it's-
direction on
if-
that. I mean, is it,
Well, let me Go
Okay,
jump
great.
in. If it's related to a certain property that we've been involved in, then yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay,
I believe it is litigation.
okay, is it litigation? Okay,
As far as settlement.
okay, very good.
I'm guessing, but I assume that's what you're talking about. What? Is that the one you're talking about?
I didn't hear what you said.
I don't want to say the name.
Okay.
Yeah. If it's something that's involved with the active litigation, then yeah, we can talk about that in executive session. Okay, very good. Are there any other Board of Supervisors comments? No, sensing none. Any other public comment? Okay, I'll give you guys one last shot. All right, prior to adjournment, I'm going to make the following announcement. The next meeting of the Board of Supervisors of New Britain Township will take place on Monday, May 16th, 2022 at 7 p.m. here at the New Britain Township Building. The agenda and meeting materials will be posted on the township's website prior to the meeting date at newbritontownship.org. Also, a recording of tonight's meeting will be available on the township's YouTube page within the next 24 to 36 hours. After all that, I will now take a motion to adjourn, reminding everyone that we are going into executive session after the meeting is concluded.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. And we're gonna ask if the room could be cleared because we're gonna just stay in here for executive session.